What's up, everybody? Welcome to our weekly live podcast, Mosh Racing Live, where we talk all things NASCAR. A little bit of a hiatus last week. I was actually on vacation with the family. We went to Washington, D.C., did all the touristy sites, and in that, had no time to sit down and actually record a podcast and talk about all things Las Vegas. So we'll get to a little bit of that tonight, but tonight we're mostly going to focus on the weekend that was Phoenix and talk a little bit about the upcoming week in Atlanta. Hey, just to give you an idea why we're doing this on a Tuesday night instead of our normal Wednesday night date, this is where I am right now. I am in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm here for work. And this big blob of blue that you see here is the reason I am still in Boston, Massachusetts, and not back at home in my own bed tonight. I was supposed to travel home tonight. All the flights canceled. This big nor'easter, or whatever they want to call it. I think they still name these storms now because they want to pretend that they're hurricanes or whatever. So it is snowing quite a bit out the window right now. Needless to say, all of my flights have canceled. And I'm already getting notifications that my flight for tomorrow morning that I'm supposed to be on is delayed. I'm not feeling very confident about it, but I'm hoping that it happens so that I can get out of here. So anyway, on that note, welcome to our usual what would be a Wednesday show on a Tuesday. We're going to talk about a little bit about Phoenix and kind of wrap that up. And then we'll get into our weekend preview for Atlanta. We're going to start by transitioning and talking about the United Rentals 500. Before we get into the race that happened Sunday in the NASCAR Cup Series, let's talk a little bit about the iRacing version of this that I ran on Friday night. A lot of you guys joined us on the stream to kind of talk about that as we went through it. Yeah, I'm not proud of me this week. I'll be honest, I struggle at Phoenix. Phoenix has been the bane of my existence in all things NASCAR racing on sims for as long as I can remember. The first NASCAR sim I ever ran was NASCAR Racing 2. I have struggled with this racetrack in any configuration that it has. In this race particularly, I spun 3 times in the dogleg going down the front stretch. On my own. Didn't get hit, didn't get turned, nothing. Just lost it. Wound up finishing 25th in this race, 17 laps down after broke a toe link on my first time that I spun in the dogleg and impacted the inside wall. Damaged the left front toe link. Wound up spending 10 laps getting that repaired. Just nothing I could do at that point. But even with all that, I was pretty determined to finish the race. I wanted to go through and at least get a finish in. So managed to run the entire race. Just stayed out of the way of the leaders. 17 laps down. Not my best showing. Hate that Phoenix is the championship race in the series because, man, of all racetracks, I have struggled with this place for as long as I can remember. Even the old configuration where it was a lot flatter on the backstretch and what is now turn 3 and 4 was previously turn 1 and 2 was a little bit different in the way that you attack those. The difference in the 2 corners at Phoenix, I've never got a handle on it. I've never figured it out. And I say that, and even though in 2021 I finished 3rd in this race, I actually had a decent showing. That was all tire strategy that got me there. It wasn't like I figured it out. I've struggled with this racetrack for as long as I can remember. I loathe going to Phoenix. So tough night for myself in the number 96 standard proof Camaro. Ran that new paint scheme this week that I was supposed to run at Las Vegas. Wound up not being able to make the race at Las Vegas because of our vacation plans. There just was not time to get in the race. So tough weekend for me. But hey, all things considered, in the overall points in my division, I sit 74th, which is an improvement over 91st where I was before Las Vegas. And I sit 4th still in my club points, so not the worst. I'm looking forward to coming to this race in Atlanta this weekend and hopefully getting something going there. So let's talk about the real United Rentals 500 that happened at Phoenix Raceway this weekend, or the United Rentals 312 500K. Kind of an interesting race. Few things that stick out to me. Number one, William Byron gets his 2nd win of the season. The first driver 2 consecutive years now to get to be the first driver to have multiple wins in a season. I still don't take William Byron seriously, and I don't know why. I don't know why I look at William Byron's record and I'm just not impressed by it. I should be. The guy's got championships in the Xfinity Series. He's got wins. He's got 6 wins now in the Cup Series. But the only 2 wins of his that I take seriously are his second win that happened at Homestead. I believe it was 2020? 2021 maybe? I don't know. Whichever one it was. And then his win last year that he had at Martinsville where he was a very dominant car. But I feel like the last 2 weeks, the only reason William Byron won is because of late cautions that kind of fell his way. And Las Vegas, he did win stages. He was good. I don't dispute that William Byron had one of the more dominant cars in Las Vegas. I'm not going to take that away from him. But I also felt like God, I'm drawing a blank here. Sorry. Kyle Larson, teammate, should have won Las Vegas. Probably had the dominant car. And I felt like he should have won Las Vegas. I felt like Kyle Larson should have won at Phoenix this weekend. The pit strategy kind of played out there towards the end, and Kevin Harvick was actually the leader. He had the better pit stop there at the end of the race, took the lead, and was cruising to victory, was gapping Kyle Larson going to the end of that race. It was about to make me eat my words. I said Kevin Harvick doesn't win a race this year, and I forgot that we race twice a year at Phoenix, where Kevin Harvick is the master. I mean, good Lord. Going into this weekend, 19 straight top 10 finishes, the most wins of any active driver at Phoenix Raceway. So, shame on me for betting against him. And he almost did it again. Had there not been that late yellow that shook the field up, he was going to win. He was going to drive that car to victory. We had the late caution that brought everybody down to pit road. Harvick takes 4 tires, and Byron takes 2. Larson doesn't take tires. Larson stays out. Larson was going to win that race. However, we have another yellow that happens, and it takes away from that. We have to re-rack and have another restart, and now Byron's 2 tires are the advantage. Harvick was mired back in traffic because a lot of other guys took 2. Actually, the closest car to the front of the field that had 4 tires was Tyler Reddick, who winds up getting a 3rd place finish. Pretty impressive run. Now I'm a little biased. I'm a Bubba Wallace fan, but I believe that 2311 has keyed on to something. And Tyler Reddick being over there. I mean, Tyler Reddick is a good driver as it is. I think you're going to see some wins out of that 45 car. And they just about rallied to make it happen. Had there been about 3 more laps, those 4 tires and the highest running car with 4 tires was going to prevail. Didn't quite work out this way, but that's all right. I think in the long run, the race was really decided by that last caution that happened. And William Byron gets the win. But I mean, shame on me. Maybe this is a bad call on my part, but I just can't take him seriously. I don't feel like, okay, you've got 2 wins this season. I don't see William Byron as championship potential. I don't see him as a championship contender, even though I should. But you look at the Hendrick stable, I see William Byron as the weakest link at Hendrick. And maybe that's not right for me to think, but I look at, obviously you have championship contenders in Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. They've won championships already. They've dominated. They have gone back-to-back seasons of being the highest win rate of drivers in the series. Even Alex Bowman. I see Alex Bowman as a better contender than William Byron. I feel like, I'm going to quote Denny Hamlin here, but I think you got it wrong when you said Alex Bowman just backs into wins. No, I feel like Alex Bowman has gone out there and won some races where William Byron is backed into wins. He's just had luck fall his way to be the one to claim the victory. So maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I think overall, if I had to rank the Hendrick stable, it would be Larson, Elliott, Bowman, Byron. And Byron's got 2 wins this year. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm right. I'm just saying that when I look at it, it's so unique the way that the season has just unfolded so far. On that note, William Byron gets his fourth straight, or I'm sorry, not William Byron. Alex Bowman, all the B names, B last names. Alex Bowman gets his fourth straight top 10, is leading the regular season points championship right now. So I think there's something to be said about the consistency of the 48 car right now. I think Alex Bowman, fresh off a new contract agreement, he's got things going his way. They're on to something, and they're just kind of playing the slow and steady game right now, which is working for them. Another thing that's been very unique so far this season, all Chevrolet wins. Going into 2023, there was a lot of talk about the body changes that all the cars made. So the way it was described is all the manufacturers have a box. This is the box you can operate in. You can make changes as long as it fits in this box. That's what you have to work with. And the teams did that. There were some adjustments on the Chevrolets. They adjusted that nose. This was the lip. That was that front light on the Camaro. Now it's like this. Everybody looked at the Ford Mustang going into the 2023 season and the adjustments that they made to that car and said, that's going to be the car to beat. The Fords are going to have an advantage. And Chevrolet has won every race so far this season, and not just won them. I mean, Daytona, you can't really point to Daytona as this was the dominant manufacturer, because there was a lot of duality in that. There was a lot of change in ebb and flow, where Ricky Stenhouse Jr. obviously wound up winning that race, but for a while there, Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher were running the field. Martin Truex Jr. had his turn at the front. There was a little bit of everybody kind of at the front of the Daytona 500. So not the best barometer for the season. Granted, it's a plate race. That's to be expected. But I think when we got to Fontana, Ross Chastain in a Chevrolet really was the dominant car of that race. Kyle Busch wound up winning that race in a Chevrolet by pulling ahead, and kind of that last pitch strategy that worked out to his advantage to get him in that position. But then you look at Las Vegas and Phoenix, and Hendrick Motorsports dominated those races. Hands down. The 5 and the 24 were the two best cars of the field in both of those races. So Chevy has definitely figured something out. Now, with that being said, there's this investigation into the louvers, whatever you want to call them. The grill plates, the exhausts that allows air to come up from underneath the hood out on the hood of the car. NASCAR confiscated those from Hendrick Motorsports. Well, it'll be interesting to see, if there's a penalty assessed for that. Was that an aerodynamic advantage that has made them so good at these last few races? That remains to be seen. Other news. Let's talk about the end of Phoenix there and the William Byron, Denny Hamlin situation. I guess I have a lot of opinions on this. To me, this is a dumb move by Denny Hamlin. I mean, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't a dumb move at the time by Denny Hamlin to realize that his race was shot. He didn't have the tires. He didn't have the situation to be running good going into that final run at Phoenix. After that last restart, a bunch of cars behind him took tires. He knew his goose was cooked. Okay, fine. The way it looked on TV, Denny Hamlin overdrives turn 1, gets into Ross Chastain. Oh man. And now we're both going to the back because oops. And that could have been easily sold as I overdrove it. I was trying to get all I could in those last couple laps and just overcooked it. But no, Denny Hamlin goes on his podcast yesterday and just says, "Oh no, I knew my race was shot, and I said if I'm going down, you're going with me." And that I'll give Denny Hamlin this. Props to being candid and upfront and legit about it. I'll give you props for that. I think it's cool that you were straight up about it. You said, no. This guy's been irking me. I got him. I'm taking him. I'm going after him. So, fine. I guess. I mean, if that's what you felt you had to do, you had to do it. You did it. Cool. But what are you trying to prove here? I mean, I guess if you ask me, in my opinion, does Denny Hamlin still owe one to Ross Chastain? Yeah, sure. I don't think a lot of the situations that happened last year between the 1 car and the 11 car were deliberate, intentional acts on the behalf of Ross Chastain. I don't think what happened in Atlanta, I don't think a lot of those things were Ross Chastain just like, I'm going to get this guy. I think a lot of things just happened. They were racing incidents. But even with that, Denny Hamlin entirely deserves to be pissed off about him. I think that, yeah, he got rubbed the wrong way by the same guy multiple times in one season. Not to mention the Hail Melon that essentially off of turn 4, Denny Hamlin was in the championship 4. And then Ross Chastain pulls this kamikaze move that nobody expected, didn't deliberately hit or attack Denny Hamlin, but he just said, I got to make this. I got to do something. And he did it. And it took Denny Hamlin out of the championship 4. Which for anybody that bitches about that was one of the greatest moments in the history of NASCAR racing. We're in the 75th anniversary of the sport. 75 years from now, we're going to be talking about that moment. And that's what the playoffs were created for. You wanted these winner go home moments. You got one last year. And if you're bitching about that, bye-bye. You don't belong in this sport. But for Denny to be like, okay, I owe this guy one. I'm going to get him right here. I mean, I feel like, honestly, you shot your shot too early. You picked race 4 of a 26-race regular season where there's nothing on the line here. In 2 weeks, we go to COTA, where Ross Chastain got his first win last year, locked him into the playoffs, backed it up with a win at Talladega. That guy still has 22 opportunities to go out there and win a race. You didn't derail his season in week 4 by knocking him to 21st place. I mean, that was a dumb move. And then to go admit it to where now you're going to possibly face a monetary fine and points penalty. If you look at any NASCAR news site right now, if you look at NASCAR.com, NBC Sports, Fox Sports, J-Ski, they're all talking about Denny Hamlin potential penalties. Eric Estep, out of the groove, just put a video out. Is there going to be a penalty for this? I mean, you didn't prove anything. If anything, I feel like you shot your shot too early. There's a time and a place for this. Ross Chastain could have been in contention for a win later in this season that was going to decide whether he makes the playoffs or not. And I'm not going to say you go out there and you tank the guy's race. I wouldn't do that. But Denny Hamlin feels like he has a grudge. Do it when it's valuable. Now you've shot your shot. And if anything, Ross is probably going to feel like he owes you one now at this point. Denny Hamlin, bad move. I don't agree with it. I think it was a dumb call in week 4. I think you go to week 14, suddenly it matters. Now things are a lot more contentious. Either way, I thought it was a unique perspective for Denny to do it, number one, and then just call it. Call it online. Call it live. Put it out there on the internet. Yeah, I did it. I knew I was going down, and I said, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. I don't know, man. I don't know how well that's going to go over. I'm curious to see how NASCAR is going to respond to that. I mean, I think it's a little bit unique that here's the situation where, okay, we gave a driver a platform. One of the most contested drivers, probably. I think more people have opinions about Denny Hamlin than most drivers. I feel like, Bubba Wallace rides as the most hated driver just because people hate Bubba Wallace. Then you have Kyle Busch, which seems to, now that he drives a Chevy and has gone to Richard Childress, there's like this renaissance of Kyle Busch. People aren't as mad about how outspoken he is. And then you got Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin is easily third, and he's easily overtaken Kyle Busch in that list of people that we have opinions about in this sport. Kevin Harvick, for a long time, was an outspoken guy. I think he probably rides fourth on that list. But Kevin Harvick, in his final season, I think he gets a lot of passes this year. But you know what? Kevin Harvick went into the season is like, yeah, this is my last shot. So if I have an issue, I'm going to settle it right then. I'm not going to hold these grudges and wait for a week to come respond. No, we're going to do it right there. I respect that. And I think a lot of people respect that. So, a little bit unique. Hey, let's talk about a little bit of news. Obviously, we got a little bit of catch up to do. Obviously, since I was out last week, didn't talk about Las Vegas. Chase Elliott, broken leg from a snowboarding accident, not racing. out for at least 6 weeks. Josh Berry has been filling in. Didn't have a great week at Las Vegas, but then rallies back and has a top 10 driving that 9 car this week at Phoenix. I got to tell you, Josh Berry is one of my favorite stories in all NASCAR. You know, he ran late models, and Dale Jr. latched on to him a long time ago. Saw him as a talent. What was that, 2015, 16? They were trying to get him a ride. He had started a few races in the Xfinity Series, running that Speedco car, just trying to make something happen with Josh Berry. Finally made it, got it to a point where he could run a full season. He ran, obviously, the full season last year. 2021? He won a few races. He won at Martinsville, and then he filled in for Michael Annett in the 1 car, wound up winning at Las Vegas. Gets a couple wins last year, running a full season. Now that Noah Gragson has moved on, he's been able to move in pretty much full time, take over the sponsorship in the 8 car. Really the feel-good story of a guy that's paid his dues in short track racing and late models and run the gauntlet of things, and has now got opportunities, and he's racing in the Cup Series and finishing in the top 10. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Josh Berry wind up getting into a full-time Cup Series ride. I would hate that for Junior Motorsports to lose a talent like Josh Berry, and a guy who's been so committed to the JRM program for so long through late models and Cars Tour, has brought a lot to their Xfinity Series program. If JRM was ever going to get to a point where they wanted to move to the Cup Series, I would love to see them build that program around Josh Berry. I think that would be awesome. I love Justin Allgaier. I think he's been great for that team. Allgaier's getting to that point, though, where you're going to have to start talking about retirement on that guy. And he ran in the Cup Series before. You know, he ran for H. Scott Motorsports or whatever in that Brant car. You know, he had sponsorship. He was there, just wasn't competitive. Came from a Penske development driver, moved into a less than competitive Cup team, but shot a shot. Wound up getting kicked back down to the Xfinity Series. JRM picked him up, and he has been so good in that 7 car ever since he got there, but hasn't closed the deal on the championship. I think Josh Berry, it'd just be cool to see them build a program around Josh Berry. I really like that guy as a driver. I think it's awesome to see him competing and running in the top 10. I think it's awesome that for 5 of the 6 races that Chase Elliott's going to be out, he's going to be in that seat. They're going to have, I already missed it. I forgot who they're going to have, but they're going to have a road course driver who's going to run the car in COTA 2 weeks from now. So, but Josh Berry will be in it the rest of the time that Chase Elliott's out. Kind of a big story, Chase Elliott. I mean, perennial championship contender going out of the season for an injury. In a non-racing related injury, does NASCAR grant him a waiver to continue to be eligible for a championship, missing these races? He's missed 2 so far. All accounts, he's going to miss at least 4 to 5, 6 more. So yeah, real interested to see, will NASCAR grant that waiver to him? I think they will. I think they should. I don't know. I mean, I guess when you look at like Kyle Busch in the 2015 championship season that he won, where he missed a lot of races and had to make it up to the top 30 in points, the issue he had there for a while was just the being out of the season. But he got injured in a racing event and then in the Xfinity Series. So do you grant drivers who get injured by doing things on their own time a waiver? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is to that. So I just felt like, I guess I would like to see Chase Elliott still have a shot at contending for a championship if he makes the playoffs. You know, he's going to be in a hole. We don't have a top 30 requirement anymore. So now let's test the limits of that. Chase Elliott has to go out, and he's got to get a win when he gets back in the car. He's got to perform. He's got to be there. But I also don't feel like you have to restrict these guys from, oh no, you can't have a life outside of racing. You can't have anything but this. So Chase Elliott getting hurt snowboarding, like, are you going to just say, oh no skiing? NASCAR can't control their lives like that. I mean, that's not fair to them. They should give him a pass. I feel like they should give him a pass. But he'll obviously still have to earn his way into a championship and into the playoffs in the most competitive version of the sport we've ever seen. There are more drivers that are contenders on a weekly basis now than there have ever been. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that Chase Elliott will have his work cut out for him, the same way that Kyle Busch did the year he won his championship after missing a third of the season. So, that was a little bit unique. Another kind of unique thing this week, they debuted a new rules package at Phoenix with 30 to 40% lower downforce on the cars. And I thought it actually made for a little bit of a unique race. I thought it was kind of interesting. The cars slid around a bit more. They had a little bit more work. Maybe it didn't equate to a better on-track product as far as lead changes and quality passes, but I think it made drivers work a little bit more. And this is what fans have been asking for. So I guess, we are at where we're at as far as horsepower on these cars goes. We're not going to go back to 850 horsepower. We're going to continue to run tapered spacer and all the things that limit horsepower on these cars. That's not going to increase because we want to have competition. We want to have racing. We don't want to have one car that just gets out there and runs away with it because that's not entertaining. It's not good racing. And I think stages have qualified that a little bit. It's put so much more emphasis on the tires of these cars now and your ability as a driver to manage those tires throughout a run. So this is what fans have been asking for, and that's what we have. I thought the race, though, there was some risers, there were some fallers. There were guys that worked their way through the field. Chase Briscoe, most notably, had the highest rise in start to finish position throughout the course of the race. But the rules package and the slickness, I think it favored guys like Kyle Larson, Ryan Preece. I think those guys had the opportunity to run a lot better because of this rules package. It also put guys who maybe should have been better or would have been better in this rules package a year ago weren't as good this time, and I'm fine with that. I think that it's good to see these guys having to go out there and race these cars and handle these cars because, again, this is the top tier of motorsports in the world. If you look at the ratings this year, NASCAR, even though their ratings were down for this race particularly over last year, still the highest viewed motorsports event of the season, including F1 and IndyCar season opener. NASCAR blew them out of the water by like 2 million viewers. So it's still the highest viewed form of motorsports. Yeah, these guys have to work for it. I don't want to see it just be a gimme. I don't want a slot car track. I don't want to see Daytona at every racetrack. And I like that we're experimenting with the package on the cars to make there be less downforce and make these guys have to learn how to drive these cars. Subsequently, I hate that in iRacing because I suck at driving these cars, it turns out. I have my really good tracks, I have my really bad tracks, and when you put me on a flat track with a low downforce package, I suck. I don't want to race New Hampshire this year. I don't want to race Gateway. Oh, man, I'm cringing thinking about going to those racetracks this year. All right. We've had a good talk about Phoenix. I think there's a lot of things to share. Overall, if I had to summarize Phoenix, William Byron gets the win. I think Kyle Larson probably should have been the winner. Kevin Harvick pulled an ace out of his sleeve to put himself in position, and a late caution just kind of fell that way. I mean, I had a big problem a long time ago with the courtesy cautions. There's the debris caution, but this wasn't for that. This was for a legit wreck that caused those late cautions. And at the end of the day, it shook the field up, but the competition in the Cup Series is so extreme. It's so much higher than it's ever been before. And I respect that. I appreciate that. I like watching these guys have to race these cars and race each other. And again, there are more drivers that are contenders for wins on a weekly basis. I mean, you go back to the early 90s where people called the heyday of NASCAR, and there was 5 guys on the lead lap, and it was the same group of 5-6 guys winning every race. The sport's more competitive now than it ever was then. A lot of people look at NASCAR and say, oh, well, you've made too many rule changes to make it harder to win. Well, isn't that kind of the point? I don't see that as a loss. Hey, before we move into the weekend on Atlanta, I just want to point out one story that kind of broke this week. NASCAR is in talks with manufacturers about an exhibition race in all electric cars. We talked about this during the episode we did about the Clash at the Coliseum, and I said that I think the Clash, the specific intention of the Clash at the Coliseum was to see if we could make a purpose-built racetrack work, quarter-mile racetrack in a stadium environment work specifically for stadium races in electric cars. Now you can take electric cars where you don't have exhaust fumes and all the noise and put that into a stadium environment. I believe that that's exactly what NASCAR is trying to do with the concept of electric cars. I think, number one, I don't think you're going to see the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series of trucks go to an electric series. That's not going to happen. At best, there will be a hybrid option for those series, which I would actually be kind of interested to see. I would be interested to see how the raw horsepower of internal combustion engines that we run currently with, electronic fuel injection versus a hybrid car who can go a longer distance on a fuel run, which would win, horsepower or strategy? That would be a little bit unique to me. But if NASCAR came out with a full electric series that was an exhibition series, ran completely independent of the Cup Series or anything else, I'd be fine with that. That would not bother me. I don't disagree with that happening at all. I think we should do that. I think we should do that during the off-season. We should make a stadium series that runs in indoor stadiums. Hell, bring the guys. Bring Kyle Busch. Bring Denny Hamlin. Bring Tyler Reddick. Bring Ross Chastain. Bring the guys. Put them in electric versions of the Cup car. Let them go race stadium series races. I'm for it. I'm fine with that. It does not hurt my feelings at all. The fact is that the auto industry is going electric. There's more emphasis on electric cars, and that's going to continue to be the future. Why would we not have our race cars match what happens in the real world? I've been racing electric go-karts for the better part of 13, 14 years now. If you go to K1 Speed, pole position, almost any of these indoor go-kart tracks that are very, very competitive, they're electric go-karts. I've never been like, oh, well, this would be fun if they had gas in them. No. Doesn't matter. I don't care what kind of motor you have on it. I'm going to race it. Let's go. Jeez, you want to put a fucking rubber band under the hood and wind that thing up and see who can go fastest? I'll race it. I don't care. There's so much, dude, electric, dumb people online that are absolutely against this, and I disagree with that. I disagree. I think that if we want to do this as an exhibition event, fine, do it. There's going to be a day. There's going to be a day. It's not going to happen in the next 10 years. Probably not in the next 20 years. There's going to be a day, though, that the majority of cars produced are not going to be internal combustion engines. They're going to be electric motors. How is motorsports going to respond to that? They're going to follow the trend. And it's not just going to be NASCAR. It's going to be Formula One. It's going to be IndyCar. It's going to, it's already in the NHRA. They already have electric cars running time trials in the NHRA. Or even in exhibition runs. Things are going to follow the trends of the world. And electric cars are here to stay. So it's not something we need to be upset about. It's just something we need to embrace because it's going to happen. Do I want to see... don't get me wrong. I love the roar of the engines at a NASCAR race. I think it's great. I think it's fun. I'm not opposed to them putting mufflers on the cars in certain venues, but I don't care. If it brings back Fairground Speedway to meet the noise abatement issues that they have with that racetrack, fine. I don't care. Let's just do it, though. All I hear, or at least all I read online, is that the sport is dying. The sport is alive and well. NASCAR is doing just fine. Again, still the most viewed motorsport of any platform in the world. They're getting more viewership over IndyCar, over Formula One, over NHRA, over IMSA. They're doing just fine. They're not struggling. I think that, expanding to new markets via electric race cars, hell, let's try it. What could it hurt to try it? What's the worst that could happen if we see where it goes? Because you don't get to hear loud cars like like racing is not still going to be happening because the cars aren't powered by gas. I mean, it's the same thing as when the series ran iRacing. None of those cars were powered by gas. None of them. They were all powered by CPUs and zeros and ones. But it was still fun to watch. So let's just see where it goes. All right, let's move into talking about this weekend, the And Better Health 400 that's going to be happening at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Hey, if you're going to Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend, leave me a comment down in the chat below. I might be at this race. I haven't confirmed my plans yet, but I'm trying to make it to this race this weekend. I'd really like to be there, at least for Sunday. We'll see how it goes. Going to try to fly my plane down, spend the day at the race. So if you see me there, say hi. Let's hang out. Let's talk about what you guys want to see on this show in real time. A couple interesting things going into this weekend in Atlanta. Obviously, this is the second year of the newly configured Atlanta Motor Speedway. They'll have 2 races this year. This race particularly was 500 miles last year. It has been shortened to 400 miles. Both races in Atlanta this year will be 400-mile events. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not opposed to it. I think the intent was to try and get just a little bit more competition into these races, but that's okay. Another thing they've changed this year, the pit commitment line and entry will now be on the exit of the backstretch entering turn 3, which is a little bit unique. There was a little bit of debate about this online I've been reading this week, and I guess to me, here's kind of my thoughts on it. When it comes to having cars try to get down to pit road speed exiting turn 4 in a track that essentially races like a restrictor plate racetrack, that caused problems last year. They had wrecks last year from cars trying to pit, and that was a problem. So this isn't like Daytona or Talladega where you come off turn 4 and you've got that short chute going to the tri-oval where there's plenty of time to get down off the racing line. You've got a wide skid pad down there where you can get on the brakes, slow down, make the pit commitment line, and be slow. When you come off turn 4 at Atlanta, you're full bore, and you're in a turn. Basically, you're turning 75% of the racetrack, 80% of the racetrack at Atlanta, because you're turning through 3 and 4. And then once you get to that front stretch and the double dogleg front stretch, you're still turning all the way through there and setting yourself up for turns 1 and 2. The only time you're going straight on that racetrack is going down the backstretch. So NASCAR made the decision to move the commitment line from the entrance of pit road coming off of turn 4 to the entrance of turn 3, where basically you have that entire backstretch and skid pad, what used to be the former front stretch pit area. You can get down out of the racing line, get slowed down, be at pit road speed, coming to that commitment line, entering turn 3. Now this is where it gets interesting, because you're going to have to be at pit road speed from the entrance to turn 3 all the way around 3 and 4, all the way down pit road, all the way to the pit exit line, which is on the entrance of turn 1. That's a considerably longer pit road that they're going to have to run this year. At first I was like, can you just make the pit commitment line be at turn 3, and then your pit road speed limit, your first segment box, be when you actually get onto pit road on the exit of turn 4? And the more I thought about that, I thought maybe it's a better idea that we have them at pit road speed going through 3 and 4, because if somebody gets in there and cooks it in and is going too fast trying to make up time through 3 and 4, and they wind up washing up, sliding up, now you're washing up into the field in 3 and 4, causing a wreck. So maybe you do need to be at pit road speed coming into turn 3. It's going to be a real interesting to see if there happens to be a cycle of green flag pit stops that happens in this race and a caution comes out. Guys could be 2-3 laps down because of the length of being at pit road speed now. That's going to be a little bit unique. So it's hard for me to feel good about that, but at the same time, I understand why we're making this change. I think ultimately it's going to be safer. Even if you get down into the pit entrance and you're at pit road speed through 3 and 4, and you pit and the rest of the field keeps going and they wind up wrecking, all those cars are generally going to wash up towards the outside wall before they start coming down the track. And you're going to be at 45, 55 miles an hour, whatever it is, pit road speed. So you're not going to be plowing into those guys. You're going to have plenty of time to stop, slow down, avoid that wreck as they start to come back down the track. So I feel like it's a good move. It's just going to be interesting to see kind of how it goes, how it plays out as we get into the season. Jeez, listen to me. We're in the season, into the depth of this race. So real interested to see how that goes. Let's talk picks. What do you guys think you would pick for a winner at Atlanta? This one's a little bit tough for me because, again, Atlanta now races like a plate track. They've essentially taken this and turned it into a 1.5 mile restricted plate race. They're running the same plate package that they run at Daytona and Talladega, which slows the cars down, a lot more downforce, a lot more drag, which basically makes them run in a pack configuration. I don't expect we're going to see the same tire cut down issues that we saw last year. I think we've kind of solved those. Teams know what their limits are on ride height now. After 2 races last year, they kind of know what they have to do. I guess for me, you look at the 2 Atlanta races last year, and William Byron won the first one, Chase Elliott won the second one. Corey LaJoie showed a lot of strength in that second race. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kurt Busch last year. I mean, there were so many different players. So to me, I'm going to default to who I see as good at restrictor plate races. And I'm going to go back to that top 5 list that I talked about at the Daytona 500. Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin would probably be my top 3. Ryan Blaney easily fits into the 4th. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. deserves honorable mention in that. When we're talking about guys that can go out and run good at plate tracks, obviously won the Daytona 500 this year. Ross Chastain, it is a perennial contender. I think that if you're not considering Ross Chastain, you need to. It's a little bit tough for me to pick a winner at what is a plate track. I'm real curious to see, too, where does Atlanta Motor Speedway go from here? I think that as that track starts to weather, I mean, obviously, we've only had 1 year since this repave, but as that track starts to weather, where does it go? Does it get to be less of a plate race type racetrack? Does that surface wear, and now you're lifting a lot more in the corners, and it's going to get back to the older Atlanta where I mean you're having to work the car a lot more, and tire management becomes such a big factor. I mean, and at what point does that happen? Is that going to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? I don't know. But I'm curious to see how that goes. Picking a winner at Atlanta is hard for me to do. I think, though, I'm going back to my Daytona 500 pick. And I think that he's due a really good run last weekend at Phoenix. I'm going to take Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney is going to be my pick for Atlanta. And only because I think the guy's due for a win. I still continually say Ryan Blaney is one of the better plate racers that exist in the series. And if you're not confident in Ryan Blaney, then I will go with the all-time greatest restrictor plate racer in the Cup Series, Brad Keselowski. And I only say that because of his spotter, who was formerly Dale Jr.'s spotter. That is going to be one of the better plate racers you're going to see out there. God, why can't I remember it? I'm stalling here trying not to say his name. It is right on the tip of my tongue. Why can I not remember his name? The dude who is the spotter was Dale Jr.'s spotter forever, and now he's Brad Keselowski's spotter. The greatest restricted plate racer in the Cup Series. I can forget his name, and I am not proud of me right now. Oh, God, I just had it. I'm stuck. I can't remember it. All right, so anyway, all that to say that my shoe-in, I'm going Ryan Blaney, the 12 car to win at Atlanta. I think the Fords are due. I don't see the Chevy dominance continuing. I think somebody's got to figure something out, and at a racetrack like Atlanta where it's still a little bit unpredictable how we're going to run. You know, we ran 2 races in this car last year. Who knows where we're going to go? I'm going to take Ryan Blaney, and my backup is going to be Brad Keselowski. That will be who I think wins the Ambetter Health 400 in Atlanta this weekend. Yeah. So if you disagree with that, well, you know, I support all picks on this one because this is such a crapshoot. Next week, when we're starting to talk about COTA, I can be a little more calculated because I think there's certain people that just run better at calculated racetracks and technical tracks like a road course like COTA that I can pick. I'm not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about that more next week. So, yeah, I think Ryan Blaney is going to be my pick this week. And I could be completely wrong, but I believe that the Fords are due. 4 straight Chevrolet wins. It's hard to bet against the Hendrick dominance right now, but without Chase Elliott in that car, William Byron, maybe he backs into another win. I don't know. But I feel like Ryan Blaney made some moves in the Atlanta races last year that should have won him those races, both of them. So that's going to be my pick. That's my guy. All right. I think this has been a really good conversation. Obviously, no guest host this week, which I regret. But I appreciate everybody who's joined us here to talk about this tonight. You can see all of the replays of this will be live on our YouTube channel. This week, going to be running the NASCAR iRacing series in Atlanta. I believe I'll be doing that, I think not Friday night. Maybe tomorrow night, actually. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, I might be running this race. If not, then it'll be on Sunday if I don't go to the actual race. So I'll put that on the Facebook page and as well here in the YouTube page. I'll put a post up about it to let you guys know when we'll be running that. Come join us. We'll talk through the race as we're doing it. Hopefully it goes better than last week did. This 96 car you see down here below me deserves a good finish. We've had a couple good runs this year that have just gotten spoiled, man. I really wish I would have gotten to run Las Vegas. I was excited about that race. I feel good about racing at that racetrack, but just didn't have the time to do it. Atlanta's another one I keep circling on my calendar. I ran here last year. I did run one race. I only ran 3 races in the next-gen car last year. Just didn't have time to really do it, and definitely didn't stream any of those. I'm just now getting back into live streaming races. But in the one race I did race at Atlanta, I got to the lead, kind of worked my way up there, wound up just kind of what I felt like brushed the wall going into turn 3 and broke the right front toe link, wound up having to pit and was 10 laps down by the time I got that toe link repaired. So going to avoid that again this year, but Atlanta's a unique racetrack the way that they've reconfigured it, especially on iRacing. For those of you that don't know, iRacing was the test bed. That's where they came up with how are we going to reconfigure this track. And they tested all these different scenarios and options and in ways the track was going to run in iRacing before actually going and applying it to the real racetrack. So it's kind of fun to run this racetrack on iRacing and see exactly where the test bed came from and what the intent was. But it's tight. It's a 1.5 mile super speedway. It races like Daytona and Talladega. You have to draft. You have to pack race. But the corners are tight and it gets slick. And believe it or not, it's not wide open all the way around, especially if you're further back in the pack. I mean, if you're leading a line, you could stay wide open, but if you're behind cars, you're lifting on entry in 1 into 3. So it's a unique racetrack. It's a lot of fun, but it can go wrong in a hurry. If somebody gets out of line, it's just like the big ones that happen at Daytona and Talladega. You can get caught in a wreck. So I'm excited to race here this weekend. And I'm hoping for a good finish. I need some good finishes. I'd like to get a win. I've got a win in this car so far this year at Rockingham during the off season. I was able to pull off one win in a race that just kind of fell my way in tire strategy. But now that we're in the actual season and racing in the Cup Series, I'd like to pull off a win. So Atlanta is one I have circled as an opportunity. So follow along with us. We'll chat about the race. We'll talk about your predictions for this weekend as we're going. If I can do it tomorrow night, that would be my preference. But if I don't get it tomorrow night, I don't know if there's one on Saturday to run. I don't think there is. Maybe. But if I wind up going to the race on Sunday, then I won't have a chance to run the actual iRacing race. So I'd really like to do it either tomorrow. There is one on Thursday, but it's kind of early afternoon. So I don't know if I'll get to run that. But yeah, either way, we'll get a race in this week, and I'll post it out there when you guys can come join us and follow in. Real quick, shout out to MyPilotPro, custom GoPro mounts or action camera mounts. Again, there's a link down in the description. Go take a look at that. If you're looking for unique ways to mount your action cameras for anything you're doing, whether it's aviation, marine, outdoors, Go check that out. Take a look at the options they have. You're guaranteed you're going to find something there that works well for what you're trying to do. I'm going to plug them every time we do one of these live shows. They've been a longtime sponsor of mine, and they've supported me through a lot, and I really appreciate everything they've done for me and my channels, both this one and the Wheel and Sky Aviation channel. So looking forward to bringing the standard proof car out on Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend for the And Better Health 200, which it will be in the iRacing Cup Series. Sunday, don't forget to watch the race online. If you're at the track in Atlanta, send me a message. Let me know. I'm planning to be there. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'm trying to see if I can work that out to actually be at the race this weekend. If you can be there, let's meet up. Let's hang out. Let's talk racing. Let's let you throw stones at me because I'm going to be wearing my DoorDash Bubba Wallace jersey. They're driving the DoorDash car this weekend. Can't wait for this race. Pretty excited about it. Unique to see how the pit road works out. We'll leave it there. Next week, we'll be live here again on Wednesday night talking all things NASCAR. We'll wrap up what happened at Atlanta, and we'll get ready for the first road course race of the year at COTA. So, appreciate everybody joining us. We'll see you guys next week, all right? Get ready for the first road course race of the year at COTA. So, appreciate everybody joining us. We'll see you guys next week, all right?